Hello, hello, hello. This is CRP speaking to you live. How's it going? I hope you're all doing well. And yeah, sorry for the tardiness. I just had to take a quick leak to tell you the truth. So anyway, as usual in these webinars, if this is your first time, welcome. And if you're a regular listener to it, hi, how's it going? And as usual, I'd ask you all, if you can hear me properly, please raise that little hand that you have there, just to make sure that everybody can hear me properly. Great. And now I've put everybody's hand down. Can you see the screen? It should say in purple, US election postmortem. Raise your little hand if you can see that. Great. So the system's working fine. I usually do it just because I'm kind of paranoid about technology. It's never actually failed, but I'm always a little bit, unnerved by it. Okay. Now, if this is the first time you're on this webinar, see, you're able to ask written questions, right? And later on, we'll do like a Q&A comment type section. And, just have your microphone plugged in and configured so that you can appear on the broadcast. If you have a good question that you write down in the question box, I'll tag you and bring you on, and yeah, you can tell us the question directly and ask any follow-up question that you like. So yeah, that's basically how it works. These things last usually 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours. A couple of the earlier ones went like 3.5 hours and stuff like that, which I think is a little bit too much, right? So I try to keep it between 90 minutes and 120 minutes. I think that that's the sweet spot, And yeah, so we're going to be talking about the U.S. election. Now, originally, this was supposed to be a postmortem. We were supposed to know all the results of the election, but we obviously do not. Oh, God damn, man. This is just fucking absurd, okay? I'm going to show you the outline of today's show in just a little bit, but I just have to say, well, first of all, caveat, and this is an important caveat. Anything can happen, okay? We are in a state of flux. It is very obvious to me, and I will explain why, that this election is incredibly fraudulent, that the Democrats pulled out all the stops and they have committed wholesale electoral violations of an unprecedented amount, okay? And I will further show you and hopefully prove to you that I think that Donald Trump actually won the election. But not only won the election, I think that he had a landslide. But the Democrats were able to manufacture more votes. That's bottom line what I think. And I will go to my grave thinking that they stole this election outright. And you heard me, I think that in the end, Biden will be declared the president, and I will explain why. I hope I'm wrong, okay? So anybody who thinks that I'm like anti-Trump, no, I mean, I've said this very clearly many times. I don't like Trump. I don't trust Trump. I think he's a used car salesman. But between him and Hillary Clinton, or him and Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, I'd pick him, 100 times out of 100. Yeah, because I think that he's a buffoon and a used car salesman, but I think that those other people are fucking monstrous, okay? I mean, I just want to make it real clear what I think here, okay? I'm not against Trump, like irrationally. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I don't like the son of a bitch. Whenever he talks, he makes me cringe. I find him just, I really just, on a visceral level, just cannot stand the man, okay? Some of you might know that I actually met him back in 1999, okay? I was at a cocktail party in New York City, and there he was with his wife, and I talked to him very briefly, and nothing particularly interesting, to tell you the truth. His wife was lovely. She was a very lovely woman. I mean, of course, very attractive, but a nice person. Him, I thought he was full of shit. I thought he was full of shit then, and I still think so today. But I think that he tapped into something really profound going on in the United States that the elites certainly don't want to look at, which is the dark underbelly of globalization and how it has hurt the United States and how it has hollowed out the United States. That's what I believe. He tapped into that. And I think he tapped into it because, like all good used car salesmen, he was able to A used car salesman, he'll meet you on the lot and he'll ask you just a few pointed questions and he'll find out the things that are important to you and he'll nail those things over and over and over again, okay? In order for you to fall in love with him, okay? That's what Trump did. He didn't really care about the working man. He just cares about being loved. And so he hit on those topics that affect the working man in the United States. And the working man responded. And that's how he got to the presidency in 2016, because the elites embodied by Hillary Clinton, they don't give a shit about the people. They really do not. And people sense that. People sense that condescension and that arrogance, and they don't like it. And so, what happened was kind of inevitable that Trump would win. And here again, the elites have doubled down, but this time, instead of trying to reach out to the people, they decided to cheat, because that's what they're doing. They're cheating. There's no question in my mind. And let's get to it right now. There we go. Now, for those of you who know, those of you the first time here, what I usually do is I have a full outline of the show that I just display for the whole duration of the entire broadcast, okay? Because that way you can sort of like scan around and see what topics I'm going to be discussing, what's the flow of my logic in the different issues. And I think it's really helpful, and it's helpful for me to stay on point, and that way I can like go off on some random tangent and then come back to the main argument. It's also useful for you as an audience member, because that way you can see where I'm going, and you can see parts that, oh, I'm going to tune this part out, but this other part that sounds pretty cool, and I'll pay more attention to that. I think it's useful in that regard. I think it's a lot more useful for you guys to have this than to have my ugly mug, staring back at you. And that's why I don't have a camera when I'm doing the webinars. Okay. So anyway, here we go. The caveat, like I said, things can change. Anything can happen. Things are in flux. The fact that in Pennsylvania, they are sort of like they're supposed to announce any minute now that that the votes have come in, and I'll be monitoring this. Hang on, let me just cue that up real quick. Pennsylvania's with 20 electoral votes that would potentially put Biden in the presidency is supposed to announce shortly. Okay, so far they've got 92% reported, and Trump is up just shy of 2 percentage points. Okay, he's got 3.236 million votes, and Joe Biden has 3.127 votes. That's a difference of 109,000 votes, which is very, very little. It's basically 1.7%. And they're supposed to report, they're waiting for an 8% to report. I suspect that the fact that they have sort of like a blackout and they went to sleep last night and they didn't keep on counting, I think that they're coming up with the votes. Okay, simple as that. But we'll find out soon enough. It could be that while during this broadcast we have confirmed that Joe Biden has quote unquote won the election, but he didn't win it. Okay. First of all, I did this actually wrong, so I'm going to ask you to sort of like skip ahead a little bit. Okay. I want you to look where it says, and later in the outline it says vote totals don't make sense, and I enumerate the votes in 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2020. Okay. Now, Barack Obama in 2008 had the most votes any candidate ever won. He got 69.5 million votes, okay? And that was a clean election in 2008. That was 130 million votes cast, okay? Now, the next election, 2012, only 127 million votes were cast, okay? And Barack Obama again won. In 2016, it was 129 million votes that were cast. Was I saying 1,000? I meant a million. Sorry about that. So 129 million votes cast. And now we have so far 141 million votes cast. Now, of those votes, I can tell you right now, 72.5 million are for Joe Biden. and 68.8 million are for Donald Trump. Those numbers don't make any sense, and let me explain why. Because you see, Donald Trump had incredible excitement among his voters. His numbers, those made sense. They didn't surpass Barack Obama's numbers in 2008. Barack Obama got 69.5 million. Trump is getting 68.8 million. Okay, a difference of 700,000 votes so far, right? So Trump got, it's slightly less than Barack Obama, but it's in keeping with the amount of enthusiasm. Joe Biden didn't have any fucking enthusiasm. No way, okay? It doesn't make sense. The numbers just do not prima facie make sense. It is impossible that this year there was 141 million votes cast. It just doesn't make statistical sense, okay? And there are so many examples of voter fraud, boxes of ballots that suddenly magically appear, and all of them, tens of thousands of them, are all for Biden, huh? And none for Trump. It doesn't make any sense, okay? More to the point. See, Republicans, to go back to the argument as I outlined it, in the 2020 election, the Republicans gained seats in the House. They have won so far 6 seats in the House, possibly more. And they have won one more Senate seat, okay? Now, there's some argument, a lot of people are going to say, oh, but Georgia, because in Georgia, the incumbent senator, who was a Republican, has yet to quite capture 50% of the vote. He's winning. He's got a plurality, but not a majority yet, okay? I mean, the number, it keeps slipping, okay? So it's not quite sure yet if he actually got 50% of the vote or just slightly less than 50% of the vote. If he got slightly less than 50% of the vote, there has to be a runoff election in January. But you see, the 3 candidates, there was a Republican, a Democrat, and a Libertarian. The Libertarian got 1.9% of the votes in Georgia. Come January, those Libertarian voters, they're going to vote for the Republican, no question. So the issue of the Georgia senator, if anybody brings it up, tell them to fuck off, okay? For the reasons I just explained. The Republican, he might not actually win now, but in January he will, okay? So the Republicans have net gained 1 seat in the Senate, okay? They've also gained in the state houses, governorships, state representatives. They gained across the board. The fact is, it was a red wave, okay? It was a red wave. But it seems impossible to believe, at least to me, and I'm a fairly fair-minded person, and remember, I don't like Trump, okay? It seems impossible to believe that a voter would go into a voting booth, vote a straight Republican ticket, except for the presidency, and vote for Biden. That doesn't make any fucking sense. It does not make any, even an iota of sense, okay? It doesn't make sense that Donald Trump got his constituency fired up, huge rallies. And, you know, Joe Biden, even with the assistance of Barack Obama, couldn't bring together 20 people. It was embarrassing, okay? Yeah, and by the way, the pollsters are all fraudsters. They were all dead wrong about the election. I mean, just totally fucking wrong about it. They missed it across the board. Not one pollster, Nate Silver and all those people, all those, you know, Ivy League pasty-faced little soy boy cuckolds on TV, pontificating as if they know what the hell they're talking about. Not one of those guys got it right. And by the way, I went to an Ivy League school, so I know what I'm talking about when I say that these Ivy League morons, these nutless wonders, I know what I'm talking about. I met them. They're pussies. They're despicable. But anyway, all the pollsters were wrong. There was a definite red wave. The vote totals do not make sense. Now, in 2000, in the election of George Bush and Al Gore, there were 101 million votes cast. In the 2004 election, there were 121 million votes, okay? I frankly didn't have the time to do heavy research as to why that was the case, that it jumped up by 20% in 4 years, okay? One can ascribe it to there being more interest in taking out George Bush and the Republicans responded in kind. I'm not clear about it, okay? But in 2008, 2012, 2016, the numbers were pretty steady. That they would jump so much, well, a lot of people are going to say that the mail-in votes, but that's the problem. You see, these mail-in votes, it was a horrible mistake to have allowed mail-in votes. There should have been a federal injunction against mail-in votes because mail-in votes are so easy to gain. If I get a mail-in vote addressed to some random person, I'll sign it and lie, and who's going to catch me? And I'll just send it back, you know, and that's that. But the mail-in votes, that's what killed it. They never should have been allowed. They never should. And frankly, I do not understand the American election system at all. In every modern democracy, there are tight controls as to who gets to vote, okay? You have to show an ID. And most people in the United States have an ID. They have a driver's license, they have a passport, they have something. Because you cannot exist in the United States without some form of ID. You can't get a bottle of liquor in the United States. I have been to bars where people who were clearly over the age of 30 were carded, okay? Fuck you that getting a photo ID is a hard task. It's not. Everybody gets one. It's necessary for a whole host of things. You need it to get a drink. You need it to drive a car. You need it to do everything, to get on an airplane, okay? And you're claiming that, oh, for voters, there shouldn't be an ID? What the hell is that all about? But, you know, the Democrats, of course, don't want voter ID because then they can't cheat. That's the issue. These fuckers cheated. Simple as that. Okay. Now, I'm sorry for the rant. I mean, it just really bothers me. This whole election so fucking bothers me, man, because it's just such blatant lying. Okay, blatant cheating. At this time, Joe Biden is supposed to have gotten 72,600,000 votes. That is over 3 million votes more than Barack Obama. Fuck you. Fuck you. That doesn't make any fucking sense. It's not possible. It's just simply not possible. The fucker is supposed to have gotten 3 million more votes rather than Barack Obama in 08. In 08, okay, when Barack was shiny and new. Because like in, let me check here. I've got the numbers on hand. Oops, where those numbers go? Hang on. Yeah, 2012 when he was running against Mitt Romney, Barack Obama got 65.9 million, about 66 million votes. 66 million votes in 2012. And now you're telling me that Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, the dementia patient, got 72.6 million. That is, he got, hang on a second, 6,600,000 votes more? That's not possible. Fuck you. It is not fucking possible, not on this earth, okay? Those votes, and here's the argument, okay? There was massive voter fraud throughout the US, not only via mail-in ballots, but also in the counting of the ballots, in the returning of the ballots, in ballots that came from predominantly Trump counties, which were thrown out or in other ways disposed of. Because this is my thinking. I think that there was a tacit message from the Democratic Party, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but the tacit message is by any means necessary. We have to get Trump out by any means necessary. And it doesn't matter how much damage we do to the democracy. We have to get rid of him because he's an existential threat, even though he's not. I mean, if you look at Trump's record, he hasn't really done anything. Yeah, he gave rich people a tax cut. He moved the U.S. embassy in Israel to Jerusalem and put together some pretty sweet peace deals in the Middle East. I mean, you got to give the devil his due. But other than that, what's he done? He hasn't done shit. The guy is a weakling. I mean, that's the other thing that I never liked about him. He was a weakling. He didn't have the balls to really do the things that had to be done. Like, for instance, the wall. Like, for instance, Obamacare, getting rid of that shit, which just strips people of their money to make the insurance companies rich. I mean, it's highway robbery. That's what Obamacare is. And it should have been rescinded. But no, he's a weakling, pussy ass bitch. Okay? But anyway, the Democrats thought that they sent out the message, the tacit message that by any means necessary. So my thinking is that it's not so much that it's an organized system of corruption, although there could be that very well as well. But I think that every Democratic operative at the grassroots level figured that they were doing the right thing. And that's a horrible thing. They thought it was a good thing to silence dissident voices, to either suppress Trump voters or dilute Trump voters, suppress Trump voters' votes or dilute Trump voters' votes by way of fake ballots. And this is a horrible thing. And I think that that's basically what happened. Okay? That's what I mean by theft by 1,000 cuts. Because it wasn't like one cabal. It wasn't like, for instance, in the 1960 election, when Richard Daley, the mayor of Chicago, stole the election for John F. Kennedy, because he did. Everybody knows it. It's a historical fact. And Richard Nixon, to his credit, although I wouldn't have done what he did, but he decided that he wasn't going to contest the election because it would have torn the country apart. I disagree. I think that John Kennedy was a piece of shit. He was a rapist. And I mean, I'm not one to really believe like all kinds of allegations, but insofar as John Kennedy is concerned, he was a rapist fuck. He was a drug addict. And he was also an insecure little bitch who practically brought the world to a nuclear holocaust in 1962. Yeah. And he started the Vietnam War. So fuck him. I mean, Lee Harvey Oswald, I would have shaken that fucker's hand if I met him, because that cocksucker Kennedy, he had it coming. But anyway, Nixon decided not to contest the 1960 election, but it was a specific place. It was Chicago. And it just so happened that Illinois was the battleground state that year. Okay. But here, fraud's going all over the place. And it's at such a low level. It's not like like the mayor of a big city like Chicago, like what Richard Daley was. This is low level shit. Everybody who's a Democrat, who's, an activist, quote unquote, and they can put their thumb on the scale, they'll do it. That's why it doesn't make any sense that there were so many more votes for Biden than there were for Obama. And that's what leads me to conclude that most of the votes that he got, that the extra votes, they're fraudulent. I mean, if I had to guess, and this is just pure speculation, and we'll never know the truth of this, never, okay? Because all the votes, the fake votes, are all mixed in with the true votes, so we'll never know. But if I had to guess, I doubt he got more than 60 million votes. Really, right now he's supposed to have 72,600,000. I seriously doubt he got more than 60 million, but we will never know the truth. That's the sad fact of the matter. We will never know the truth. Now, the way things are going at this time, we got to face the fact that it is likely that Biden will be declared president. And see, all kinds of legal maneuvers and this and that, the other, I don't think it's going to change much. Because once Pennsylvania is stolen, because that's what's going to happen. They are trying to steal Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has got 20 votes, 20 electoral votes. Once they steal Pennsylvania, which, before they were declaring counties, county by county, and then all of a sudden, with 8% of the votes remaining to be reported, poof, media blackout. In Michigan, for instance, they blocked the windows with plywood, so people couldn't watch the voters count the vote. In Philadelphia, they're not allowing Republican poll watchers into the area to see them count the votes. It's going on, and they're going to steal it, and they're going to get away with it. That's the long and short of it. And Biden will be declared president because there's something else going on, and we have to face the facts. Well, there are two things going on. On the one hand, there are too many forces that are arrayed against Donald Trump. There are too many people who hate his guts. okay? Because they think that he's a buffoon. They think very much what I think, by the way, okay? My opinion of Trump is a mainstream elite opinion of him. I don't hate the guy, and I'm not suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. I just find him just ick, right? The elites, they all find him ick. The media, yeah. And academia, of course. There are too many groups, especially the elites, that are arrayed against him and want him gone no matter what damage is done, number one, okay? And on the other hand, there are too many forces that think that they can use Biden to their advantage. And I'm talking specifically about the national security bureaucracy and the woke progressives. The national security bureaucracy has been really just pissed at Donald Trump for two reasons. Number one, they really did spy on his campaign. They really did try to fuck him over in 16. And the Durham investigation, which is just slow going and probably will never see any indictments, unfortunately. Well, it was bringing out all that shit, all that nasty ass shit. Okay. And the national security bureaucracy, well, they hate Trump on the one hand, and on the other hand, they think that they can use Biden to their advantage to start more wars. More wars, more control. They want that. They love that shit. The woke progressives, they also think that they can use Biden to push through a harder left agenda, the Green New Deal, all that shit, right? And so these people, they are basically doing everything in their power to simultaneously thwart Trump and get Biden elected, because some of them want Trump out of the picture and they prefer anybody. I mean, they would literally prefer Hitler over Trump, right? Well, Trump is Hitler, don't you know? They'd literally prefer Hitler over Trump, some people. And other people are like, they want Biden no matter what because he'll do whatever they want. He'll play ball. He'll play ball with the woke progressives and he'll play ball with the national security bureaucracy. And it's not even Biden, it's the people around him, specifically Kamala Harris. Now, I've been watching Kamala Harris for 5 years now. I first started noticing her in 2015. I'm not kidding. And I have like proof of that, okay? I think that Kamala Harris is the most dangerous politician ever. I'm not kidding. I know how outrageous that sounds. I know that that sounds crazy. She is the most dangerous politician ever. I think that she is going to be the American Stalin. I'm not kidding. I know how absurd that sounds. I am perfectly aware. But I do believe that Kamala, in her soul, is the most evil person alive in modern American politics. She is holy shit, okay? I believe that she is going to push aside Joe Biden before July 4th of next year, okay? He might get inaugurated January 20th, which, again, the caveat, anything could happen, things could change radically. Who knows, maybe if the people in fucking Pennsylvania become decent and actually show the actual vote and show that Trump won and, you know, this whole thing becomes academic. I don't think so, but anything could happen, okay? But at this time, Joe Biden is declared president and he is sworn in on January 20th. By July 4th, he's been shoved aside. He's been replaced by Kamala Harris, and it's going to be a two-step process. On the one hand, the mainstream media is all of a sudden going to start emphasizing his mental decline, okay? And just really bang that drum like there's no tomorrow. You watch, okay? They're not going to say a fucking thing before January 20th, but after January 20th, all bets are off. They're going to go after him tooth and nail over his incipient dementia. They're going to be baying to get rid of him, okay? Number one. And number two, behind closed doors, Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris's people are going to tell Biden's people, look, if the old man steps aside nicely and quietly, we won't go after his kid, after Hunter Biden. Because Hunter Biden is a fucking Chinese tool. The guy is paid off by foreign countries. They've got the shit to blackmail that fucker to fucking kingdom come. And through him, they can get to Joe Biden, okay? And they also probably have dirt on Jim Biden, Joe Biden's younger brother, who's involved in the family business. And the family's business is basically exploiting the Biden name to get money via government contracts of different sorts or consulting or bullshit like that. The Bidens are fucking corrupt. I mean, there is a reason that these fuckers come from Delaware. Delaware is the most corrupt state in the union, for crying out loud. Okay? The place is basically the bedroom for every corporation in America because of Delaware's no taxes on corporation policy, right? It's a horrible place and filled with corruption. And I think that Kamala Harris is basically going to show that card to the Biden camp and basically say, get the fuck out, or else we'll flip this card. And then it's all bets are off. Then they can potentially impeach Joe Biden. I think that Joe Biden, on the one hand, he's going to be very old and decrepit. The guy is visibly deteriorating. Come on. I mean, and at this time, he has declared a lid. The guy is not making any kind of public appearance. Why? Because he's so far gone. The guy is practically a vegetable, for crying out loud. Okay, so he probably won't put up much of a fuss, and he'll be gone by July 4th. And July 4th, or before then, we will have the first minority president, because she's not actually African American. Remember, she's South Asian. Okay, I mean Indian. Yeah, she's not black. She went to a black university, but she's not black. Okay, remember that, huh? I mean, people forget. There's also something you should know about her. She was born in 1964. She's 56 years old, right? She got married in 2014 for the first time. She has no kids and no previous marriage. What does that tell you? She lives for the job. She lives for this shit. She's 24/7 in this shit, in this politicking shit, okay? She doesn't give a fuck about other people. She's zero empathy, okay? Do you know how she got her first job? She worked for Mayor Willie Brown, right, in San Francisco. She was his mistress. Yeah, she slept her way to the top. Yeah. She slept her way by way of, I mean, getting into certain positions at the beginning of her career with Willie Brown. Then, what was it? She became district attorney of San Francisco, and then district attorney of California, and then California senator, and now vice president, and soon to be president. She slept her way. She maneuvered her way. She has zero appeal to voters. I mean, she got blown the fuck out during the primaries because nobody likes her, because she's inherently untrustworthy. She's a nasty piece of work, and people sense it. They sense it a mile away. She is a woman who never had kids. She married in 2014 to some divorce guy who's like a lawyer. Pretty trivial, right? And the vibe you get is like, you know, married him to have a beard. You know what I mean? Like gay guys used to marry a woman to have like, to pretend to be straight. I don't think that she's gay. No, I think that she is just power mad. She's just, you know, all about power. She's a nasty piece of work. Okay. So that's Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris, obviously, Biden-Harris, this is going to be a Biden-Harris thing. As soon as Biden is president, they're going to launch military incursions into the Middle East, and specifically against Russia. They're going to go after the Russians, and it might break out into open war with Russia. No kidding, okay? These fuckers are that crazy. I mean, they are crazy to start a new war. And that's one of the things that, you know, the military-industrial complex, the national security bureaucracy, they fucking hated Trump for that he didn't start more wars. Now, why is starting more wars important? Because all these fuckers, they work for arms manufacturers and various security contractors. Once they leave the US bureaucracy, the federal bureaucracy, be it the military or the national security bureaucracy, they get these high-paying jobs in the private sector. And these high-paying jobs depend on there being wars and conflicts so that the government spends money on them, on the contractors, on the military equipment. That's the whole point. So they're going to go to war in the Middle East fucking A immediately, okay? Kamala Harris, who is a wokester, she is woke as fuck. She's going to double down on the whole woke culture shit and the critical race theory shit. They're going to go whole hog on that shit and all the education. I mean, brainwash all the little kiddies into thinking that they have to cut their peckers off before they're 5 years old. Yeah, they're going to push that shit like there's no tomorrow. Okay. Now she's going to push to tighten the partnership, quote unquote, between government and big tech. And that's going to mean more censorship. I'll be gone. I mean, bottom line, I will be deplatformed, and a lot of other content creators like me who talk shit, who talk it like it is, they'll be deplatformed. Okay. I mean, probably you listen to guys like Sticks Hexenhammer 666 or Sargon of Akkad or Tim Pool, for instance, a middle of the road guy. He'll be fucking gone. He will be gone precisely because of the truth telling. That's the problem. See, truth telling will become a revolutionary act in the Kamala Harris administration. Okay. And they are going to lock down the whole big tech thing, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, the whole shebang. They are going to wipe out BitChute. They're going to wipe out all the small fry. It's just going to be big tech, tightly censored. If you're smart, okay, or let me phrase this. One of the measures that I am sure that they will pursue in 2021 in a Kamala Harris administration is to have some sort of core email address that is tied to your ID. Now, this sounds crazy, but hear me out. They are going to oblige you to have an email address that is directly tied to a government issued identity document, a driver's license, passport, something like that. And it'll be something like, John.Smith at something.gov. Okay, it doesn't really matter, but the point, this email, you will need this email to open other email accounts or to sign on to social media companies. Think about it. I mean, think about it. You want to control the population. You want to make sure that there is nobody anonymous online. You want to know exactly who is online. Nobody anonymous. So how do you do that? Well, you make it a requirement that the big tech companies, if somebody has like a Twitter account, a YouTube account, or whatever, that they have to get a at the core of it a government issued or government sanctioned email address. Because think of it, you open a Twitter account, right? What do they ask you? They ask you for your for an email address, and they confirm that email. You say, your email address is, john.smith123@gmail.com, and you set up your account on Twitter with that, right? And what does it say? It says, oh, we're going to send you a confirmation email. They send you a confirmation email, done, right? Similarly with Facebook and whatnot. Sometimes they ask you for your telephone address, your telephone number rather. And so what do? You give them the number and they send you a code and you input that code and you're verified, right? Now imagine if the email that you are required to use is a government issued email address. It would actually be very simple. Like Twitter can say this, today, they can say, look, within the next 6 months, everybody's account has to be with the, at certified.gov email account. Okay, let's call it that, certified.gov. That's the URL, right? And John Smith, who has this account, when you're using a Gmail account or whatever the fuck, no, he can't use Gmail. To maintain your Twitter account, you have to have the certified.gov email. And how do you get the certified.gov email account, right? The John Smith 123@certified.gov. How do you get it? You need to hop onto the government website and show them, by way of a picture, for instance, your driver's license or your passport, and then they issue it to you. But after they confirm your telephone number as well, they call you up and they give you they send an SMS and they give you a confirmation code or something like that, right? And that way the government will have your actual name with a government issued document proving that it's you and your actual phone number. And that's how you get the John.Smith123 certified.gov email. And only with that email can you get Twitter. And they'll give you a grace period, okay? They'll give you a grace period of 6 months or something like that. And it'll sound really logical, and they'll sell it really, really well. But what'll happen? Well, you won't be able to ever post anonymously ever again. You won't be able to be some random guy. They will know who you are. Now, when people know who you are, you're a lot more careful. You don't make waves. You shut the fuck up. That's the point. That's what they are going to do in a Kamala Harris, in a Biden-Harris administration, which, like I said, before July 4th, 2021, it'll be a Harris administration. They are going to do that, okay? They are going to censor the ever-living fuck out of you. And there'll be resistance, of course. And it'll be sporadic. It'll be here and there. It won't be organized. Because Republicans, right-wingers, we are a decentralized people. That's what we want. We believe in decentralization. I'm not talking about right-wingers historically. I'm talking about right-wingers in the US. Right-wingers are essentially libertarian. They want to be left the fuck alone, okay? Especially the people, the numbers, okay? They want to be left the fuck alone. So they're not really good at coordinating. The Democrats, fucking socialist communist fucks, they're great at that, okay? So it'll be easy to squash any kind of resistance from the right. And if there's any problem, they just extend the COVID lockdowns and just say, oh, between the COVID, it's coming real bad. And also these fucking right-wing, white supremacists, blah, 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 bad people, we have to, control them and stop them and, make them comply. And compliance is going to be a big thing. And that's how they're going to get people to register their firearms. Yeah. Register, because they're not going to try to push to eliminate them. It'll be like registration of your firearms, like a centralized national kind of thing. Look, dude, I know that you think that I'm full of shit. You're listening to me and you're thinking, oh no, man, that's too fucking extreme. All that shit that, CRP is talking about, that's so much bullshit. Kamala Harris is going to be another politician. No. Okay. You read enough history, you follow enough people who became dictators, and you see the signs, and it's like you can feel it. She's it. Joe Biden is just a corrupt politician. He's nobody. And on top of that, he's fucking senile. Kamala Harris, you got to watch that bitch, man. Because what the fuck you think she's been doing all this time during this campaign? You haven't seen her, have you? During the whole fucking campaign. Did you see her? No, you did not. I will bet, any number that you care to name, that she was in touch with all kinds of people to manufacture ballots. I don't think that she was like the head honcho of that whole operation, but she played a significant role. No question in my mind. And I will bet you that some people recorded that. And this is just wild speculation on my part. And I know it's wild speculation. You think that I'm full of shit? Well, you're going to think I'm even bigger full of shit after I tell you this. But I will bet you that somebody must have recorded her, that they have proof positive of the shit that she was up to. Because a woman as determined, as single-minded, as focused as Kamala Harris, she wouldn't have just sat there in Biden's basement while he drooled on the days that he had a lid and not done anything. No. That woman was busy as a bee the whole time. And I think that she was busy figuring out and setting up people to manufacture votes. That's how it went down. And I will bet you that recordings will surface and they'll be snuffed out and they'll wind up in the very fringes of the internet, but you'll see, it'll come out, because shit like that, there's always somebody who does that kind of thing, okay? Of recording a conversation. A lot of times they record the conversation because they think it's going to be like a good thing later on. You'd be surprised, okay? And somebody must have recorded it. I bet you several recordings will pop up, but that's idle speculation. It'll be fucking funny when it happens, okay? But Kamala Harris is going to use lockdowns, okay, to keep people in line. COVID lockdowns are going to be the way to basically keep people under house arrest. And you're going to know something really weird. They're going to start doing like COVID lockdowns in specific areas. And those are going to be the areas where there is more resistance. Okay. You notice it'll be like by sector. They'll say that they're trying to do it more efficiently. They're trying to do a more efficient form of lockdown. And it'll be by sectors, by states, by cities, by counties. And the beauty of it is that, see, COVID, everybody's scared of it. Okay. And so they say, oh, we have to lock it all down, and they do it. No questions asked. I think that the elites are incredibly surprised how easy it was to lock down the whole country. Okay. Because I think that originally they thought, yeah, we got to lock everything down because this shit, could kill us all. I mean, like Ebola on steroids or some shit like that, right? That's what I thought. You guys heard me. I thought that this shit was deadly as can be. But experience has shown that no, it's not that bad. It's just slightly worse than the flu. It's bad, sure, especially for older people, and anybody who's gotten anything serious, diabetes, heart problems, or whatever the fuck, they're goners with this shit, right? I mean, if you're 65 and you got diabetes and you get this shit, you ain't gonna make it, and that's a tragedy. But if you're like 20, shit, you can catch this thing on a Monday, and by Thursday you're good to go. It's nothing. It's just a common cold for the young people. Thank goodness, by the way, because the Spanish flu of 1918, it tended to kill the young, especially those in the flower of their youth. People between 18 and 30, which is a true tragedy. Just horrible. But anyway, we're lucky in that regard insofar as COVID. But for a totalitarian like Kamala Harris, it's the perfect way to repress people and to do it like specifically target certain geographic areas. You got resistance in, say, Cook County. You say, oh my goodness, the Cook County COVID numbers are rising, so we got to lock it down. See? And that way you can snuff out any kind of resistance geographically without having to declare national emergency or martial law or call out the National Guard or any shit like that. You just say it's a COVID emergency and you snuff out geographically any opposition. That's what's going to happen, man. And I know, I mean, I'm like saying there are many things that I'm assuming here. I'm assuming that number one, Biden wins. Number two, Biden is shoved aside. But let me ask you reasonably. Do you think that the elites will really allow Trump to remain in office after all the shit that's gone down, that you've seen gone down? How they've repressed the news of Hunter Biden and that whole corruption and all that crap? I mean, you saw how they repressed that. They blocked out one of the oldest newspapers in the country from their Twitter account, man. And they totally wiped out all of that news. They just totally suppressed it. They totally suppressed the fact that that what you call it, the Mueller investigation, the whole Russia Gate thing, it was a complete scam. It came out that it was a scam. And what did they do? They just swept it under the rug. People don't even realize it now. People have forgotten it, They are masters at just sweeping bad things under the rug and just highlighting things that are just so dubious and just pathetic and unreal, right? The elites are corrupt pieces of shit, and they hate Trump. No way are they going to allow him to have a second term. I mean, we're seeing it live as it's happening, okay? So that's my first assumption. You think that I'm wrong? Well, it remains to be proven, okay? Number one. My second assumption, and the second assumption is easy, that Biden is shoved aside by Kamala Harris. That's fucking easy. I mean, the man is 77 years old and he is suffering from dementia. That's fucking obvious. In September, October, he put a lid on over half of his days. He was just stuck in his basement. Okay, what does that tell you? He is not fit to be president. And when Pelosi said that she wanted to set up a committee that would be a House Senate commission that would judge whether a president was fit to sit in office, And she said it's not about Trump because it's not. It was about Biden. It was about how to get rid of him in an efficient, quick manner once he's elected. No, he's not elected. Once he's installed with the fake votes. Yeah, that's what's going on. Okay. So anyway, the final issue that I didn't want to put in the thing is the issue of resistance. Okay. In any situation, there are two things you can do. In any negative situation, you can either stand and fight or you can run away. That's basically it. Fight or flight. It's one or the other. Or, of course, acquiesce. That is, bend the knee. Learn to live with the nightmare that you see. Now, you got to keep in mind, I'm living in Amsterdam. You listen to my voice, you listen to my cultural touchstones and whatnot. I'm American, okay? I grew up in the United States. I went to university in the United States. I started my career in the United States. I speak English. It's my first language. Culturally, I feel American. I love the United States. I love American people, especially away from large cities. Large cities distorts people, but you go to the country in the United States, any country. I've been all over. I've been, in Texas, California, New York State, I mean, Miami, New Hampshire. I've driven all across America. I've been to states I've been to, that I've visited. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire. On the West Coast, Washington State, and of course, Washington, D.C. I went there all the time. I started going to Washington, D.C. when I was 10 years old because an uncle there was the naval attaché for the Chilean embassy, right? I stayed there all the time and I got to love Washington, D.C. Washington State, a friend of mine is buried out there, a guy I went to college with, Um, Oregon, I almost wound up moving to Portland. I was there for like 3 weeks. I loved it. And this was back in in the year 2000. I loved it so much. I seriously thought about moving to Portland because it was just such a great town at that time. Okay. California, I've been all over. San Francisco, LA. I lived in Brentwood. I lived in Beverly Hills. I lived in San Fernando Valley. I know at Long Beach, I know the country. I know it. And why am I telling you all that? I haven't lived in the United States in 20 years because I saw what the United States was going to become. It's going to become a totalitarian dictatorship. You could see it, and you've been able to see it for a long time, okay? I haven't lived in the United States since 2001. I left August 11th, 2001, exactly 1 month before 9/11. Yeah, my last address was 85 Pearl Street. You can look up 85 Pearl Street, apartment number 4. I forget the zip code actually. I was 3 blocks away in diagonally as a crow's fly from the World Trade Center. Okay. And I'll tell you right now, I could see it back in 2000 how it was going to go south. And I left the United States and I pursued different opportunities in Chile and whatnot, and then in Europe. And there's always been the opportunity, the possibility to move back to the States. But every year it's, why? Why am I going to go there? It's becoming more totalitarian. There's more freedom in Eastern Europe and in the Netherlands, where I am now, than there is in the United States. There's a lot more freedom. And you can say that, oh, in fucking Holland, they're all hippies, and all in Eastern Europe, they're all corrupt. Yeah, well, maybe. But, you don't have the censorship. You can speak your mind. You're not like looking over your shoulder and worrying about what you have to say or can or cannot say. You can be free, You can't be free in the United States, So anyway, I'm sorry. Sorry to go on that rant, but it just, yeah. The issue becomes, what's the resistance going to do to the Biden-Harris presidency? There isn't a hell of a lot to be done, okay? Also, you got to keep in mind that Donald Trump himself is an older guy, okay? He's what, 73 years old, 74 years old, something like that. He's out of office, and multiple things are going to happen. Number one, the elites are going to hunt him down. They're going to try to wipe him out, okay? just as a punitive measure. Mm? And they're going to go after him, and they're going to go after his family, okay? Because he cares about his kids. I mean, his kids all turned out all right, okay? And that's actually that's pretty interesting, because the fact that all of his kids turned out all right, you know, I mean, you can think whatever you want. You can think that they're preppy asshole scum, or, you know, plastic people. I kind of think that they're kind of plastic, yeah, and a little bit vulgar, or a lot vulgar, to tell you the truth. But, you know, none of them is a drug addict. None of them is Hunter Biden, quite frankly. You know, none of them have pictures of them snorting coke off a hooker's ass, right? So yeah, they came out all right. Hmm? They're going to go after his kids because he cares about his kids. That's why they came out. They came out all right, because he obviously looked after his kids, and the elites are going to go after him. They're going to prosecute him. They're going to throw all kinds of shit at him to break him, okay? Because they hate him. They have Trump derangement syndrome. They're going to go insane and do whatever is necessary to break him. So he's not going to be able to lead any kind of resistance. Simple as that, okay? He's going to have his hands full trying to protect his own family from the wrath of the elites and the entrenched bureaucracy that hate him so, okay? So there, and on top of that, like I said at the beginning, he's too old. He's 73, 74. He's not going to have the energy to, you know, run a resistance, lead a resistance. Simple as that. Mike Pence might be the guy, but Mike Pence, I like him on a personal level, but I recognize what he is. He's a, he plays ball, okay? And when the media, when the elites rather, manage to finally shove aside Trump, he'll detach from the whole Trump thing, and he'll play ball with them. And he'll probably go away quietly, because he's that kind of a guy. You know, he's not going to pick up the banner and lead the charge. If anybody does that, it'll be somebody else, somebody we haven't seen yet, or perhaps we have seen him, but, you know, he hasn't become apparent yet, okay? Because, you know, Mike Pence and Donald Trump, no. And the Trump kids, no, they're gonna have a whole bunch of problems of their own, because they're gonna go after them. And when the government wants to go after you and fuck with you, they'll do it. And there's nothing you can do. I mean, a word to the wise, if the government gets it in its head that it wants to prosecute you and put you in jail, cut a deal as quickly as possible, because they're going to win, because they have limitless resources. It's as simple as that. This is something a lawyer once told me, that if you ever have, you know, the U.S. government wants to go after you, cut a deal as quickly as possible, because if you fight it, you'll lose. And what will happen is that as you fight it, they'll get more and more pissed off and want to fuck you over even harder, because you're not rolling over. You see? So if the government goes after you, just settle as quickly as possible and cut the best deal possible early, because the longer you hold out, the worse deal you'll get. And if you go to trial, they'll charge you with 1,000 different things, and eventually they'll catch you in something, like they got on poor General Flynn. The guy is fucking innocent, but, you know, they fucked him over good. So anyway, moving on. So the final point, the resistance, I don't think there's going to be any resistance. It'll take a while to coalesce, and from here to be able to view there, it's just so far and so cloudy that God knows what could happen, okay? So the issue becomes, are you going to stay in the United States or flee? Flee for better prospects. Now, you can say that I was kind of like a chicken shit because I decided to leave. In fairness, it wasn't so much that I decided, ooh, I'm leaving the United States because this is a horrible country. No, it was more like, I'm leaving the States. I said to myself in 2000, I'm leaving the States because in Chile, there are more opportunities that I want to pursue. And I moved to Chile and I pursued those opportunities. And then later, when I decided that, you know, it was time for me, that I was just sick of Chile for various reasons, that I wanted to move to Europe, I contemplated the possibility of living in the United States, but the United States had become too close-minded, too walking on eggshells kind of situation. And I thought that Europe would be better. And Europe was better. I've had a great time living in Europe. I moved to Eastern Europe first, and then I was in London for a while, and London was great. And after London, again, there was a possibility of moving to the United States. And again, I thought to myself, no, I don't want to live in the United States because it's become even more repressive. Now, with all this political correctness shit, I say one wrong thing and I'm fucked. And I don't want to live in that kind of a situation. And so I didn't. I left. I mean, I decided not to move to the United States in early 18. I decided to move back to Eastern Europe. And then things changed in 2019. I got an opportunity to do a very lucrative deal, and that's why I moved to Holland. But now I'm winding down in Holland, and the idea of moving to the United States is just no fucking way. No way. I'm not gonna fucking move there because I see what's coming. I mean, sorry, and you can't convince me otherwise. So I'm gonna move back to Ukraine, and I think that Ukraine is the best place to hunker down at this time. I'm living in a place that I've thought very hard and long. I think to myself, in Ukraine, if there was ever a war and Russia decides to uh, invade Ukraine, the city where I'm in, Kharkov, uh, it would be overrun very quickly because it's only about 100 kilometers away from the Russian border, and they would capture it intact. There would be no reason to destroy it, okay? Because the natural border between Russia in the east and say, Poland to the west and the Slovakia and Romania to the west, the NATO countries to the west, is the Dnieper River. And the Dnieper cuts Ukraine right down the middle, okay? Ukraine looks like if you hold your hands together, like curve your, well, just look it up. Just Google the Ukraine and you'll see it on the map, right? The Dnieper River cuts it right down the middle. And the Dnieper River, if I recall correctly, it's something like, I think 600 kilometers away, 500 kilometers away from Kharkov or something like that. I mean, it's quite a way because the country, Ukraine, is fucking huge. It's the largest country in Europe, right? And so actually, I'm going to check that while we're talking. I'll just look it up real quick because I'm kind of curious now about it, how far it actually is. But anyway, the point. I figure that if the Russians ever were to invade Ukraine, which they could, they very well could anytime they want to, they would capture Kharkov and just overrun it as they moved on to the Dnieper River. Okay, yeah, because the distance between Kharkov and the Russian border is like it's about 50 kilometers, and the distance between Kharkov and the Dnieper River, well, as the crows fly, it's about 300 kilometers. And by road, it's about, 500 kilometers. Okay. Well, no, 400 kilometers. And that's the natural dividing line of Ukraine. Okay. So I think that Poltava, if you're looking at a map, Poltava is where there'd be more fighting than Kharkov. Kharkov would be probably the forward headquarters of the Russian army. So they'd capture the city intact and it would keep on functioning. If you've ever see, most people have this idea that when there's a war, a city is totally destroyed. And that's not how it happens. A lot of times a city is captured and it continues functioning perfectly fine while the conquerors there set up their headquarters and keep on fighting further away from the city against the enemy forces, right? It's it's that kind of like total annihilation of a city, it's sort of like the movies. Okay, it's not quite reality, but that's not important. Let's go back to this whole issue. I moved there because I think that it's a fairly safe place to hunker down, because I have small children and I don't want them to be living in a country where they are taught that my children are 5 and 7 years old, they are taught that they can be, a different sex. If they feel like a boy, if they are born a girl but feel like a boy, then they can just take a surgery and become a girl, or a boy or whatever the fuck, It's insane. I don't want them educated in a country that hates itself, because the education that is taught in the United States is an education whereby students are taught to hate America and not trust it. I don't want to live there. I don't want to live in that kind of country. I don't want my kids growing up there. And this is what I see happening. Now, a lot of people are wondering if is there going to be a civil war? I, honest to God, I don't see it happening. I used to think that there would be a civil war. I mean, my thinking has evolved quite a bit on this issue. 3 years ago, I would have laughed at the notion of a civil war. Then 2 years ago, I started thinking, oh, maybe, and the whole Kavanaugh situation, I was thinking, man, this is fucked up. And over the last year, fuck yeah, definitely civil war. But now, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I'm wondering if, the people on the right would just acquiesce, that just say, oh, well, okay, you win. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but that's my feeling, that they'll just say, okay, they'll just lie down, So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, that's the end of my presentation. I've rattled on for a couple of an hour so far. So let's take some questions. So let me go to the question thingy. Hang on. I'm, as people who have been on these broadcasts know, I'm my own producer. Okay, so sometimes it takes me a while to get shit and figure it out and stuff. It's a little bit slow process, this part of the questioning. Okay, so I'm going to go to the final questions first and sort of work my way back. Arash G. Let me see. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name, Arash. Let me pull in Arash. Oops, no. Let me pull in Arash. Arash, are you there? Hello? Hello, Arash? Hello? Arash, are you there? Okay, well, Arash had a good question. I guess his microphone is not working. I don't know, because it goes green, but I don't hear anything. So, wait, let me just check to make sure that, yeah, that's odd. Let me try Arash again. I'll unmute Arash. Arash, are you there? Hello? Hello, Arash? Okay, I guess it doesn't work. Okay, Arash. Arash had a good question. The question was, what do you think about Canada? Canada is cucked out, woked out bullshit. Okay. Do you know that Trudeau actually said, and I'm not kidding, look it up. Trudeau, not Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, said that if the election was disputed, he would consider sending Canadian military to enforce the democracy in the United States. What the fuck is this cocksucker saying? What total faggotry and stupidity, as if Canada could invade the United States and impose Joe Biden. What the fuck is that fucker talking about? He's an idiot. But precisely because he's an idiot, he's into all that woke shit. So yeah, fuck him, and Canada's cucked out. Canada is just pathetic. So I would never move there. Canada, South America, Sebastian Mendo asks, Canada or South America? South America, definitely. South America has a whole shitload of trouble, right? A whole shitload of problems, but it's more free. Okay, people leave you the fuck alone. That's the thing. See, that's the key issue. These wokester people that Kamala Harris represents, because she does, they want to change how you live. They want to change how you think. Okay, and they are going to use force to do it. Eventually, they will. They will use force to change the way you think. You got to understand that, because see, you see the woke as just these weird college kids. Do you know how I see them? As communists. And I know about communists because the communists tried to take over Chile and they were fucking horrible. Okay. And what I'll probably do is, like, in a later webinar, probably like perhaps next Sunday or the one after that, I'll talk in detail about communism in Chile during the 1970 to 1973 regime of Salvador Allende. It was horrible. It was fucking horrible. And I'll give you a specific example so that you know how bad it was, okay? See, uh, when food supplies ran low because they fucked up the economy so righteously, when food supplies were low, they created these rationing boards, okay? These were the local committees that were formed in each neighborhood, and they were called the Juntas de Abastecimiento y Precios, JAP, and they were called CAP because in Spanish that's how you pronounce the J, as not J, but as H. The CAP were the Juntas de Abastecimiento y Precios, literally committees of supply and pricing. And you get a little ration book, right? And you'd go down to your local shop to get, bread or eggs or whatever, because the food was being rationed. And see, if you were of the wrong political party, they wouldn't give you food. Not kidding. You could have the valid ration card and everything, and it could be, you had the right to get food, but if you had the wrong political ideas, if they knew that you were like a conservative, you didn't get food. And you know who told me this? My grandmother and my grandmother's maid, okay? And do you know how they knew? Because it happened to them. Because my grandmother, my mother's mother, used to go out. She was the one who did the food shopping. In the mornings, the maid would arrive bright and early, and she'd do the cleaning. And then while she was doing the cleaning of the whole apartment, my grandmother would go out and buy food for the day. Lunch and dinner, that kind of shit. And she'd come back and give the food to the maid. Okay, that was their routine. This was their routine during the Allende regime in 70 to 73. It was their routine after for years. I saw her do it, and I would go with her lots of mornings. When I was on vacation and I was staying at her place, summer vacation, that kind of stuff, because she lived by the ocean, right? So, I'd go stay at my grandmother's and go to the beach and hang out with friends and whatnot. But lots of times I would go out with my grandmother to the different, foods. So I saw her routine, okay? It was the same routine she had during the Allende period. And her maid, Maria, that was her name, Maria Rojo, that was her name. She would tell how at one point they told my grandmother to her face that they would not give her any food because she was of the wrong political party. And so my grandmother had to give the ration card to the maid to go and get the food, right? And what happened was that Maria Rojo, yeah, that was her name, she was a little more white, okay? I mean, she was white, quite frankly. And so she went there and she tried to get food. And at first it sort of like worked, but after a while they sort of like said, you're not dark enough. You're not like one of the people. And she'd be in her maid's uniform and she'd say, I'm a maid, okay? And then the Junta de Abastecimiento would be like, oh, so you're part of the oligarchs. And she'd be like, no, I'm just a person. And they'd be like, no, you're not one of us. If you were one of us, you'd strip your maid's clothes, go and tell your boss to fuck off and join our revolution. So you don't get any food. That's how it worked. And so my grandmother and Maria herself had to resort to buying food on the black market. Yeah, and the black market, of course, was prohibitively expensive. In fact, Maria Rojo told me that had it not been for my grandparents giving her a lot of extra money, she would have starved to death because she wasn't allowed to get any food because she was, again, of the wrong, she was helping the oligarchs, okay? That happened in communism, okay? And the thing is, see, that happened at the end stages, and shortly thereafter there was a coup d'etat, and all those fucking communists were driven out of the country, right? But see, the exact same stages that you are experiencing in the United States, I saw them not me, but rather my family saw those steps in the 3 years leading up to the Allende government that started in 1970. Okay, and so what this election feels like, it feels like the election of 1970, okay? And the election of 1970 in Chile. which led to the socialist communist government, which led to a fucking chaos and eventually coup d'etat. Okay, so that's how it feels like to me. But like I said, you know, and now that I think about it, I'm gonna do on this coming Sunday, I'm gonna do a whole thing on Chilean history, explaining how the communists got to power. Okay, so that you understand how, you know, when I see this woke shit, I just view communist and I see it as communist, and it's a communist takeover. It's going to be fucking horrible. Okay, but anyway, going back to the questions, because the questions I want to get people, I want to get people on, by the way. So let me, Ricardo Herrera, let me go to Ricardo. Well, I should say Ricardo Herrera. But let me see. Let's see if the microphone works now. Ricardo, you there? Hello. Hello, Ricardo.
Yes,
Hello,
hello.
you there? Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right. Awesome to be talking to you.
Great to be
So
talking
yeah,
to you too. Thanks very much for joining this webinar.
oh, it's my pleasure. I've learned a lot on this past hour. So I am more afraid of what's going to happen economically, fiscally. I was wondering if you had any opinion about for example, I saw that Biden's going to get rid of the 1031 exchange. That's going to affect investors who invest in real estate. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on any economic consequences of this, of
And they're
what's
going
going to
to,
happen.
yeah, they're going to start trying to bribe the people with a lot of very expensive programs, and they're going to just print money, and that'll break the dollar, which
That's what I
happens
was
in,
like.
yeah, that happens in every fucking communist regime ever. It always happens, the same fucking thing. It happened in Chile, it happened in Nicaragua, it happened in Venezuela. They start trying to buy people's votes by way of public spending, and there's not enough money, and eventually they break the currency. Yeah, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. Do
Okay.
you agree or disagree?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think most people said whether Trump or Biden won, the dollar's going to collapse anyway. Which is what I was afraid of because most people like me, I'm from Colombia. I've been in the U.S. for about 10 years. My plan was to buy real estate and then go live in Colombia and live off of my U.S. dollars, since they go
Hmm.
further than they do here. But for example, Biden getting rid of the 1031 exchange is going to be a disincentive for anybody to invest in real estate here. So it just,
Well,
it
you know,
just,
the real estate play, that's over. It's been over for a while. Okay. The whole COVID-19 thing really drove home the issue that people can work from home. And so a lot of companies, you know, they're not going to go back to those big offices that they used to have. Commercial real estate is kaput. Okay. Um, and this is just a quick side note because see, um, the technology existed for people to work remotely, but there was no real incentive to do so. But with the COVID-19 lockdown starting in mid-March, so many companies started to see two things happening. Number one, they didn't have to pay these big offices. They could essentially outsource their office space to the home of the worker, number one. And number two, the productivity of the worker was pretty good because the worker wasn't wasting all that time on the commute. Okay, less wear and tear. They can work in their pajamas with a nice cup of coffee at home, and they were more productive. And so the companies realized, you know, having a big office is not worth it. And so a lot of there's going to be a lot. There is a lot of empty office space. I work at an office sharing place here in Amsterdam, and it used to be full, and now it's not. It's about halfway full. Okay, because people realize they don't need it. Companies realize they don't need it. And there's also the issue of residential real estate. People are realizing that now they don't actually need to live in the city. They can live not merely in the suburbs, they can live in any place they want to, perhaps some small town that's cheap and the quality of life is high, and they're moving there. And so that's happening. That's another issue. And so real estate as a play, as an investment, I think that play is over. That's my personal opinion. I could be totally wrong, but that's how I see the market. That it's just because ultimately real estate, you buy it in order to get the rental income. But if people are leaving high concentration areas, you're going to have basically price deflation insofar as rental is concerned. So I don't see it. I don't see real estate as a good investment into the future. I think that play has been done. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you have time for one last question, I just wanted to
Sure.
know if you had any opinions on what somebody like me, somebody in the early 30s, should be investing in. I don't know, gold, stocks, any of those things come to mind?
Well, precious metals certainly it seems like a sensible hedge. Okay. And don't put everything. I mean, you never put all of your cash into any one investment vehicle. That's always foolish. You want to have it in multiple different investment vehicles. Because anything can happen. Okay. And so you want to be hedged, right? But having a strong position in precious metals, 25% to 35%, that seems sensible. Yeah. That seems
Okay.
very sensible
All right.
at this
Awesome.
time. Yeah. Other than that, to tell you the truth, I'm a little bit in that boat because I made a very lucrative deal earlier this year and I wound up with a lot of cash, but I recognize that the markets are just full of shit and they're being manipulated. And so my fear is, when will the music stop? I don't want to be left holding the bag. I mean, I'm mixing my metaphors, but yeah, I think you get the point. I'm just real scared. I don't know what's a safe haven. And so right now I'm sort of like in cash, not all cash, because I do have a precious metals position, but in general, I'm just very loosey-goosey. There have been a couple of trades that I've hopped on and hopped off because I knew that they were going to be lucrative because I was either told that or I guessed it correctly, but it was always just very small bets and very limited exposure and very limited exposure both in so far as a percentage of my overall positions and also in terms of time. I don't want to be locked into any investment for, more than say, to tell you the truth, I want to be totally liquid, to be able to hop on and hop off whenever I want because things are just hinky. Everything is just fucked up, you know? And so, yeah, I'm just scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared and I don't quite know where to park my chips. Okay. I've been parking some of my chips in real estate in markets that are flat. They're not. They are not going. I don't have the expectation that they're going to rise in value. Okay, that's not why I got into those positions, those real estate positions. I knew already that they weren't going to rise. Then that's what I wanted. I wanted something flat and boring, mostly in Eastern Europe, to tell you the truth. But insofar as the developed economies, right now, I don't know what the fuck to get into. I mean, I wish I did because everything looks dodgy. That's the thing. And everything looks incredibly dodgy. Yeah. I wish I could give you better guidance in that regard, Ricardo. Yeah. But thanks very much for calling, man. I appreciate it.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Let's go to another question. Elio Cordova. Let me get to Elio. Oh, I'm getting uh yeah, I was with Ricardo Herrera and Elio. I don't know if it's Elio or Elio Cordova. Um, yeah, it's all spick night. After Elio, I'll go with with like an Anglo name or something. Okay, Elio, my fellow wetback, how's it going?
Hey, coach, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. What's up?
I'm just kind of terrified. Biden.
Oh, you're only terrified. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, as a fellow spick, I'd rather be locked in one of the Trump cages, but Biden Harris is scaring me a little bit more than that.
Well, at least you get 3 squares a day. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. Well, coach, my question was, what do you think the margin is for still a Trump victory at this point? And in order for him to, succeed, what would need to happen?
Well, looking at the electoral map, he needs Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and either Arizona or Nevada to flip. Okay. Wait, let me just check this real quick. Actually, he needs to flip Arizona. He can look. There are 5 states in play at this point. Okay. Though I think that Wisconsin, Michigan being called is just bullshit because it's just so obviously just blatant. I mean, look, the fucker, Trump, he won Ohio. How on earth did he lose Michigan and Wisconsin? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Okay? Where Ohio goes, Michigan and Wisconsin follow. It does not make sense. Okay? I mean, historically, it doesn't make sense. Look at every past election. Those 3 states, they always go in the same direction, be it blue or red. Okay? So anyway, there are 5 states in play: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. Looking at it right now, it looks pretty locked that Georgia is going to go Trump. North Carolina is going to go Trump. Pennsylvania ought to go Trump. Okay. But he's behind in Nevada and Arizona. If he loses Nevada and Arizona, or let me rephrase that, at this stage, if he loses Arizona, that's it. Okay. From the Electoral College perspective. Now, what legal magic can they do? I don't know. That is something that I have no idea. Okay. The leftists are framing this very well, that Trump wants to stop the voting, wants to prevent people from voting, which is a really good tactic from a PR move, from a PR perspective, right? But it's crooked. It's as simple as that. Michigan and Wisconsin, that's a lie. It's just a blatant fucking lie, you know? No way did Biden win those states. It's just a lie. And the fact that those 2 states, I'm sorry, I have to admit that, how can I put it? When I see blatant cheating, it just pisses me off in a way that nothing else really does. Okay? I'm not somebody who is that cool to say, oh yeah, they cheated, but and be sophisticated about it. I mean, cheating is something that really, really bothers me. Okay? Trump won those 2 states. And remember, I gotta really emphasize this. I am not a Trump head. I am not a Trumpist. I think Trump is a fucking idiot. And I think that he's a weakling. I don't like him. I don't like the son of a bitch. But he was robbed. It's plain as day. He was robbed, you know? And so it's just so fucking frustrating. So I'm sorry. So Elio, the path to victory for him is that to win this straight, just electoral votes, he'd need to win Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona. Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, they are on his side at this time. And the vote is pretty much over in those states. Arizona, there is a 68,000 vote difference between Biden and Trump. With, as I'm looking at the map here on the New York Times, it says 86% votes reported. That is 14% have yet to report. 14% would be more than enough to turn it around for Donald Trump. If he turns Arizona around, and a lot of people are saying that the votes that remain to be counted are from Trump counties. If he turns Arizona around, then he wins. Okay. The question is, will they cheat there too? And my guess right now is that they will.
Do you think that there's going to be any repercussions for like the blatant voter fraud in Michigan and Wisconsin? Because
No.
In my opinion, I don't think so. And
No.
quite frankly, I'm really disappointed at the lack of a backbone that the right seems to have right nowadays. I think that they're too focused on pointing out the hypocrisies of the left, thinking that that means, proving like their logic is more sound means that they win. Meanwhile, you have people like Antifa ignoring all of that and just hitting you in the face with a bike lock. These people don't reason.
Yeah. Well, I also think that a lot of Republicans are going to be secretly relieved to get rid of Trump.
One's against like the free market, or
Well, there are different kinds because, like, for instance, there are the free marketeers who are just. Oh, can you do me a favor? Can you get your headphones a little bit away from your microphone or something because I get like really bad feedback.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry. You
that's
can
all
go
right.
ahead and mute me. I'm on the phone, so.
Oh, okay. So I'll mute you for just a moment. No, so what's going on is that there are different factors. I mean, you got the never Trumpers who hate his guts just by definition. Which, like I said, temperamentally, I'd be a never Trumper, but I I would never be a never Trumper because I think that most of the never Trumpers are warmongers on the one hand, okay, and on the other hand, I dislike the son of a bitch Trump, but I don't have I can call balls and strikes, if you will. When he does things that I think are good, I can say so. When he does things that I think are stupid or weak, I say so. I don't have a problem with that. Whereas the never Trumpers, just everything Trump does, they hate. Okay. So there's a substantial number of never Trumpers. And so I think a lot of them are going to be just like pretending to be Trump, but pretending to be for Trump rather. But they're just going to be wringing their hands and, oh, this is awful. Bad Democrats stole the election. Oh, well, here comes President Biden. Like that. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's really fucking despicable, but I think that that's what they're going to do. I'm unmuting you, Elio. Yeah. You agree or disagree?
Yep, I agree, and I don't think that we're going to see much resistance on the right, which is definitely disappointing.
Yeah. The common people, you know, the on the ground people, they'll raise a fuss, but nobody's going to listen to them, and they'll be disqualified and called white supremacists and shit like that. Yeah. All kinds of bullshit. You know, and they're going to sweep under the rug the issue that Trump's votes from blacks and Hispanics rose considerably. And in fact, the only demographic he seemed to have lost was white males. Yeah, that's true, by the way. You know,
Oh, I know.
yeah, there are also some what you call wokesters who are saying that Latinos, you know, they're trying to be white. They're trying to, you know, be part of the white patriarchy or some shit like that. Oh man, there are all kinds of explanations that they're coming up with, but eventually they're going to just sweep all these explanations under the rug and just pretend that Trump was an anomaly. I think that that's the goal. Yeah.
I guess what the Mexicans are the new Uncle Toms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so I'm not going to be calling you or what you call it, Ricardo or myself a wetback. We'll just call ourselves Uncle Toms. Yeah, we're Uncle Tomases, Uncle Tomases, Tío Tomas. Great talking to you, man. Thanks very much
Thanks, man.
for visiting. I
Yeah,
appreciate
have
it.
a great day.
Thanks. Let me go to another question, and like I said, I'll go for oh, Stephen Pace. Stephen, let me bring on Stephen because Stephen says that I am incorrect. So I will bring him on to state his case.
Hey, Gonzalo, can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going good. Yeah,
Hey,
I
wait.
just a minor.
Before we get into this, I'm looking at the, I suggest everybody who can go to your web browser, go to the NewYorkTimes.com page. They have this infographic on the front, and I'm basing my numbers off of that infographic. Okay, I'm just saying this so that we are all on the same page as to the electoral college math. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I haven't seen the New York Times infographic, but I was just saying that I believe you're incorrect when you say Trump has to win Arizona because he
you're
can
right.
lose Arizona and pick up Nevada
You're
as
right.
well, and then
You're right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was just a minor thing. But
You're,
and
you're,
the rate. Go ahead.
hmm? No, you tell me.
I was gonna say everything I'm seeing is that they're saying that Biden's only ahead by like 7,000 votes in Nevada. And I saw something that my friend showed me where Trump's team has already basically seen like that they've determined like 10,000 ballots were cast by people that no longer live in Nevada or are dead or some shit like that. So that might be getting suppressed.
Oh man, that would be
But
good.
anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to point that out. But I also wanted to say, and I'm not going to say that this is going to happen, but what we're seeing here would be a good case to transition to blockchain enabled voting with a public ledger and everything, where it can't be corrupted or manipulated. Everyone gets a wallet with a vote in it, and then you assign your vote to a candidate's wallet, and then that way it's all public ledger. You can see where they all went and everything like that. But of course, America uses arcane systems, and the Constitution lets the states figure shit out for themselves, or leave it to the states to fuck it up for themselves. So it probably won't happen in our lifetime. But I mean, the solution's there. Plus, you could just have tighter controls around elections. But yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah, I mean,
basically.
yeah, I mean, my thinking is, look, the okay. First of all, let's go through topics, right? I fucked up on the math because I'm looking at the chart, and it had Biden has 253 electoral votes, and I fucked up the obvious math that, yeah, 253 plus 11 is 264, which is not 270, because 270 is the number that you need to win the presidency, right? So me bad. If Biden wins Arizona and Nevada, or he is declared the winner in Nevada and Arizona, that would be 17
Then it's
electoral
done.
votes. Then he wins, right?
Yeah.
Right. But if either one of those, Nevada or Arizona, goes for Trump and he holds on to Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, then Trump wins. Okay.
Yep.
Let's pray that that's the outcome. Okay. But okay. So I just want to make that clear. Yeah, you're right. I did fuck up about that. Sorry about that. And what was the second issue we were talking about? Oh, blockchain and voting. Look, in Chile, I only have Chile to go by because, of course, I'm Chilean and I grew up there, and I know how it works, the election system in Chile. And I also know something else. See, in Chile, people used to cheat all the time in the elections, and it was just so much cheating and so out of hand that eventually they're like, and both sides would lose, right? All sides would lose. That they eventually said, look, we have to fix this up to make it foolproof. Now, the way the Chilean system works now is that everybody gets a paper ballot, okay? And what happens is the day of election is a holiday, okay? Bank holiday, everything is closed except essential services, a fire, police, that kind of thing. And what happens is that on the day of election, you are assigned a school where you go to vote, right? It's a public school or private school. All schools are required to be the voting places, right? And you are notified of which school you have to go to, and you go to that school, and outside there's like a list that has your national identity card number, okay? Not yours specifically, it's just a range. The range from this number to that number go to this room and so on, okay? And you're told to go to different rooms in that school, and that's where you vote. And what happens is typically in each of these rooms, it'll have like, say, a couple of hundred people are assigned to that room to vote. Of course, there's the thought that they're not going to all show up at the same time. The voting booth is open all day. And so you go there, you present your ID card, right, which has your national number, okay? And I understand that the United States doesn't have this, but I'm just explaining it to you so that you understand the system. You show up there and you present your identity card. Your identity card has your picture and your thumbprint. It's virtually impossible to falsify, okay? And so you show up and you present it, right? And so they have this book, a paper book, a notebook, but a ledger actually, a paper ledger, where they have already noted down all the ID numbers that are going to be voting in that room, okay? And they take yours and they find your number and they make you sign that you're there, okay? And then they assign you a ballot. Now, the ballot is really interesting. It's a piece of paper that's folded up, and the piece of paper has a little stamp on it with a with a number. Okay, an ID number, basically. Okay, a serial number. And this serial number is ripped off of the ballot, and it's pasted on the book next to your name. Okay, and so you're holding a blank ballot in your hand, and you've gotten the ballot, and the serial number of that ballot has been pasted onto the book, onto the ledger, right next to your name, right next to your signature. And also the election official, they also sign to ensure that she confirmed that you were you and that you're the real person, and confirm your signature. Okay, and so all of a sudden, there you are. Your name is on this book. It's been confirmed that it's you, and they have a little serial number piece of paper that's been pasted on there. Okay, because the serial number has like a sticky stuff on the back that just pastes right away, right? And you take your empty ballot and you go to a little booth that has just a curtain around it with a little number 2 pencil. And what you have to do is you have to vote there with a piece of paper for the candidates that you want. And then you have to fold it up in a specific way. And it's pre-folded so that you don't fuck it up, right? And then you take the folded up ballot and you put it into a glass box, okay? You put it into the glass box. And once it's in, once you slip it in the top, it's gone. It drops there, and it's glass, so you can see, and you can see all the other ballots. They're all folded up, so nobody can see any votes, right? At the end of the voting day, what happens is at each of these rooms, right, it has representatives, the people there who man these rooms, they are usually representatives of at least 2 political factions, if not more, okay? But at least, the left and the right, and sometimes it's left, center, and right, or sometimes left, center, far right, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But at least 2 of opposing political parties, they manage it, okay? And they are supposed to observe each other. And once the votes close, that's when they open up the glass box and they count the votes in front of each other, okay? Now, in this system, that way you get the votes right away, number 1. Number 2, you ensure that the paper ballots actually exist, because once the paper ballots have been unfolded and counted for the different candidates and they make the separate piles, they're wound up with a rubber band or whatever, and they are put into an envelope, and that envelope is held on as proof of the votes of that particular room, okay? In that particular school. And this happens in all the voting places in the whole country, okay? And so this way you get instantaneous results, number 1. You know for a fact that nobody dead voted, okay? Because if you show up with somebody else's ID, right, one person or the other of the 2 political parties is going to object to it, and that kicks you out automatically, okay? In fact, the law is that if you try to impersonate somebody else, they arrest you. And there's a cop there to make sure that it doesn't happen. So all these mechanisms are relatively simple. They're cost effective because it's not expensive equipment or any shit like that. It's just paper. It's very efficient in terms of time, okay? When the polling closes at usually 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, you usually get the results within an hour because there aren't that many people in each of these rooms. There's 200 votes, right? 200 votes, you can count them in less than an hour. It's not that hard, right? And so, and once you have counted the actual votes, adding all of the votes together of not only that particular school, but all the schools in the country where it happened, where the voting took place, it's a piece of cake, Yes, there are sometimes misreporting and stuff like that, but see, it's very rare, and it's very small, okay? It'll be just a few thousand votes randomly here or there. And it's not something that's long-term. This is something that just a minor mistake that happens, in that moment. If anybody wants to recount the votes of a specific school, it's easy because all the votes are there because they're paper ballots. They never go away. They never disappear. And so I've never quite understood why in the United States they have electronic voting, which is easy to manipulate, mail-in ballots or absentee ballots, which again is easy to manipulate. And I've never understood, and never in a million years will understand, why it is that in the United States, to get a drink, you need an ID card. But to vote, you don't need one? What the fuck is that all about? Sorry for going on, but I figured that you guys would want to know what the system is in a country where the fucking voting actually works. And Chile is a fucking third world country. What the fuck? Sorry, Stephen, I monopolized you. What the hell were we talking about?
Yeah, that was a pretty long-winded spiel there. I was just saying that this could be avoided by using blockchain technology with a public ledger if you set it up properly. Because I watched a tech talk where a guy was talking about, all right, aside from cryptocurrency, what else can blockchain technology do? And he said something that was very interesting. He said, you know, every year or every voting year in the United States, there's always allegations of fraud or manipulation or voter suppression of all that shit. He said you could very easily set something up, and like Iceland would be the perfect country to try this out in, because it's a very small country with a small population and it's a developed first world country. He's basically said the government, you know, you have your ledger of citizens and everyone gets assigned like a wallet with a vote in it, and then you have these candidates and you say, all right, here's the candidate's wallet or, you know, ballot box or whatever, and then you just simply transfer your vote over to the person's ballot box, and then the results would be instantaneous. It's very difficult to manipulate as long as it's set up properly. It's all open source where everyone can verify that, yeah, this is legit. This isn't being manipulated or anything like that. And the system you just described, it does sound better than the system we have in the United States, but it also, whenever you have humans, I mean, you could still have scandals and scams come in there. Like you said, there's observers from both parties. Well, you know, you could always have a plant on the other party that's working with you to you know, scam shit. But I'm not really arguing a point. I'm just saying that the example of what we're seeing now is a good case.
Don't trust technology endlessly. You shouldn't put blind faith in technology. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't.
Because it can be manipulated just as easily as just a low-tech solution. Okay, and sometimes even more so, because see, technology can give you a false sense of security. Oh, you know, this blockchain system, whatsoever the system is, oh, this blockchain system is foolproof, no way it can be manipulated. And precisely because of that diehard belief, if it is manipulated, you'll be blind to it.
Well, I'm not saying that it would be impossible to manipulate. I'm just saying it would be much more secure than what we have today.
Oh yeah, I mean, anything would be better than what we have today, no question.
Because if you could easily manipulate the blockchain and the public ledger, well, then Bitcoin wouldn't be worth a damn, because people would just manipulate the fuck out of it. But that's why cryptocurrencies and blockchain, I mean, there's all sorts of different applications for the blockchain and the public ledger that haven't even been discovered yet. And I'm just throwing that out there as something that I think is interesting and relevant to the conversation that we're having today.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Any system would be better than what currently exists. And what I particularly object to is the lack of transparency and the fact that you're just supposed to take on faith that some voting machine correctly tabulated the votes, and there are no votes.
Yeah.
All electronic.
Yeah, I mean, because this year I went up to a machine and it prints it out on a slip of paper, and then the slip of paper reads it into another machine, and then the piece of paper is actually stored as a hard copy. But in previous years, I just walked up to a fucking screen, hit a button, and then it goes into some hard drive, and you have no clue what it's actually doing behind the scene. But
yeah.
I'd also like to say the Trump campaign saw this coming. Like they said it, that with the mass mail-in voting and absentee ballots and all that shit. So they had to have been prepared for this. They had to have had like a war plan, an operations plan set out for this contingency. So
well, yeah,
I don't think we've seen the end of it.
They never
Huh?
should have allowed it to happen. You know,
Yeah.
they
But
should have
that's the thing.
they should have
The
forced the red states to the states with Republican or conservative governors and state houses to say no to any kind of mail-in balloting, precisely because it's so easy to manipulate.
Yeah, but that's the problem is the Constitution leaves it up to the states to determine how they operate, and that's why some governors and some Supreme Court says, yeah, let's do it, and the other ones are like, no, we're not doing this shit. So it would take a constitutional amendment to standardize and secure the voting at the federal level, which I mean
I
that will
think that it
never
will
fucking
likely
happen.
happen. I think it will happen. I think that a lot of people are going to be like, we need to. I think that they're
Secure.
going to need to come to some solution. I think that too many people are going to realize, this we can't continue this. We can't have periodically these contested elections where there's rampant voter fraud or not even perhaps voter fraud, but just fuck ups and mistakes. I think that some sort of solution. It should have happened after 2000, and that it was not implemented after 2000, where they said, look, we're going to set some sort of national standard. It was a huge fucking mistake.
But
They had the opportunity.
here's why I don't think that will happen, because it will require a constitutional amendment, and the bar is set so high to actually change the Constitution. You got to get, I think, I can't recall. I think 2/3 of both houses of Congress, and then 2/3 of the state legislatures. So, I mean, just right now, 2/3 of both houses of Congress. That's like that in the current environment where it's just right versus left. It's so polarized. Like they can't even come together to pass a fucking budget, much less get a super majority in both houses to pass an amendment, and then on top of that, get 2/3 of the individual states to agree to it. So I don't believe it will happen anytime soon, because constitutional amendments are pretty
Yeah,
difficult to actually make happen.
yeah, they're supposed to be difficult, but if both sides come to an agreement that this needs to be done, then it can be easily done. Like for instance, when they lowered the voting age to 18, both sides agreed with that issue. I think that's the last amendment that passed, and that passed just like that. It was over the Vietnam War, and it made sense. If you're young enough to die for your country, you ought to be eligible. Young enough to vote for the politician sending you to die. And
Yeah.
so when both parties decide that they want something, then it happens. That's the point of the Constitution. Okay, I think that this is an issue that I think in the clarity of a few years, people are going to realize, we need to fix this and fix this in a way that's done, and I think that they
Yeah.
will.
One last point I want to make, and
Sure.
then I'd like to hear it from other people, is that the conservatives and the people on the right side, we are a minority in America because of sheer populations, right? Like the liberals and the leftists, they have more kids than the conservatives, and so their numbers are greater. And if you look at presidential elections in the electoral college, the Republican path to victory is almost so narrow compared to the potential paths in the electoral college for the Democrats.
Hmm.
So I don't think that people will just come together and be like, yeah, we should really standardize and secure our federal elections, because that is not going to happen until both sides feel the pain, until both sides get robbed. But right now, only one side is getting fucked over, and it's to the Democrats and the leftists' advantage to keep it unsecured, because they have the numbers, because they have the deep state, because of all the other things that you've talked about. Like, so I just don't see it happening, because it's not going to happen until both
Well,
people realize
we'll
that
have to
it's
wait and
in their
find out.
best interest.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and find out. Great
Yeah.
talking to you, Stephen.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks so much for being on. Catch you next time, I hope.
Yeah. Take care.
I want to talk to Dixie Normus. Dixie, pretty funny name. I didn't realize it until just now. Dixie Normus. Yeah, you said something that I'll ask some other time, but what was the question? Oh, I just found it. I want just to hear about something. And okay, what's your unrelated question? Dixie, are you there? I guess not. Dixie. Oh, there
Hello?
you are. Hello,
Oh,
speak up.
what's up?
How's it going? Can you speak up? I can't hear you.
Could be my mic.
Yeah.
How is it?
Oh, it's okay. So what's up? What's on your mind?
All right, man. So I just graduated. Um,
Yeah.
I'm working like a minimum wage job, and
Mm-hmm.
so I play saxophone, and I'm trying to go into the military, and we have this audition to get into the military, and so I did it, so I'm a jazz player, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna go to the point. So basically, I didn't get in, but I could try again May. Now I'm thinking about going to Romania, to just like play with the locals and stuff, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure like how exactly to do it. So I was
How old are
wondering
you?
like 18.
Well, you got plenty of time. Okay. I mean, I'm telling you, like you figure that, oh, I'm 18, I have to go somewhere. Yeah, relax. Go to Romania. It'll be a great experience. Where are you living now? Just the state. Just tell me or the state or the city if you want to.
New York, the suburbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go to Romania. Okay. And when you're in Romania, travel around. Okay. Don't be foolish and stay in just one place. Just like look around.
Mm.
That kind of it does a guy good when he's your age, 18, 19, to travel around. I did a lot of it, okay, when I was that
You
age. And I,
you
I
got
went to Machu Picchu, I went to Argentina, I went to Bolivia. I got around when I was like 20, 21,
mm,
and it really gives you a better appreciation of the world. So do it. Don't be foolish.
you got any tips for the actual technical parts of it, like financial and I don't know the actual like technical stuff to do that.
Like, what kind of technical stuff are you talking about?
Like I'm guessing I have to get a visa to go over there, right?
No,
So,
Romania is part of the European Union, and I understand that you can fly to the European Union without a visa if you have a U.S. passport. Okay,
so I literally
and
just need me and a passport to do it.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. All right,
and
that's cool.
just check to be sure. Okay, if you do need a visa, it's really easy to get, and I'm almost positive that you don't need it. That you have,
Okay.
if I recall correctly, and I could be wrong. Okay, that you can travel from the U.S. on a U.S. passport. You can travel on a U.S. passport to Europe, the European Union, and you can stay for 90 days
Mm,
without any kind of visa or residency or anything like that. Okay.
okay.
And they're kind of loose about like enforcing it. I mean, they're not going to like look for you on the 91st day or anything. Okay.
All right.
So yeah, go travel. Don't be dumb.
Being a street
Okay.
musician, do you have any ideas on that,
What?
like how that will be? I just want to know
I'm
your
sorry.
opinion. That's for like being a street musician. Do you have any tips or any ideas? I'm
Yeah.
just
Always
asking.
play in the subways. If you're going
Okay.
to be busking, you want to be busking in a subway because that way, if it's raining, you can still be performing and still earn some cash.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right, man. Thanks. It's
no
cool
problem.
talking to
Good luck. That sounds
you.
like
Thanks.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll see what happens.
Oh shit! I cut Dixie off by accident. Let me unmute him again because he had something to say. Hello, Dixie, you there? Sorry about
Uh,
that. That was my mistake.
we'll see what happens, is what I said. We'll see what
Okay.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, man.
No, take it easy. That'll be fun, man. Man, I wish I could do that. Well, actually, I'll tell you guys. If all goes well, by the end of this month, I'm going to be doing like a road trip across Europe. Um, yeah, I'll tell you more when I get ready to go. But it's looking like it's gonna be happening. I'm gonna be riding my motorcycle from Amsterdam across Europe to Ukraine. So if things go well, it'll take me about 5 days to do it. So it's about 3,000 kilometers. What's that? About 2,000 miles. Yeah, I'm gonna take it easy, and I'm gonna visit some friends along the way, and so stuff like that. So it'll be cool. So anyway, let me get to another question. Hang on. DSAC. Let me get to DSAC. He is DSAC. You there?
Howdy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. How's it going?
It's going well. Hey, first time
You had,
actually
you had a
getting.
good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're on. Thanks for being on. I appreciate it. You had a question about if you thought I was being hyperbolic. Can you
Yeah,
expand,
yeah,
please?
yeah. So let me be entirely clear.
Sure.
I feel what's in the air the same way you do, and
Mhm.
I get the set. And here's the thing: I get the set. I like to think that I have that same intellectual strain where you're kind of coming from. I get what you're putting down, where you're saying like, this ship can't hold and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But and in any other context, I'd agree with you. And generally, I do feel like, we're on the edge of revolution or something like that. But more than likely, history seems to show that people are way more inactive than active, and tyranny is a
Yes.
lot slower than anything. So I don't get the end. Here's the
Well,
thing.
okay,
Go
there
ahead.
I would disagree, but go ahead, complete your thought.
Right. So my intuition kind of leads me to say that one, if there's ever a time to basically, and this is going to sound corny as hell, work on self-improvement and get your ducks in order, now's the time because your competition is lower than ever, especially
Yeah.
in like everything. But you talk about the girl stuff and all that,
Yeah.
on CRP, men are at their lowest and they're just shitty. So rising to the top is easiest. Oh,
Yes, yes, they
right.
are.
And
Yes.
in metaphor, politics and business is the same thing. Right now, everyone on the right is largely demotivated. Everyone on the left is not productive in general. If there's ever a time to start making gains and start putting in the investment, now's the time. More than likely, you'll see returns sooner than later because your competition is lower. Everyone is
Yes.
now playing with a limp, and more or less, it's that while I do like I said, I get exactly what you're saying, where it just feels like the country's about to fall apart. But I
Yeah.
think that I think that's more. I think that's more kind of what's being pumped in the air, and that's more stoking fears because everyone's always waiting for the next collapse, like the coronavirus and all that.
Hmm.
Everyone's waiting for, the country's going to fall apart. Oh, this is going to happen, and it's always a bigger disaster than it is. In real life, it's not. The truth is, it's hard, but a lot of it's going to come down to just ignore it, put your head down, and do the work. Like Rich Cooper says.
I understand your point of view. The two original premises that you outlined, I agree with one very much, and I totally disagree with the other. The first premise was that people tend to be inactive. They sort of like accept the situation and not really strive to change it. Okay,
Yeah,
they
you
come
need
to
the
terms with it.
activation energy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That I would definitely agree with. Okay. The second was that tyranny is a lot slower to arrive than you think. No, there I disagree completely. And I can say this from experience in Chile and experience I've seen in other countries. Also, I studied Russian history, specifically the Russian revolutionary history, while I was in college. And so I can tell you right now, tyrannies, tyrannical governments, they arise a lot faster than you think, and they need speed, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, to shock
So
people.
yeah, to shock people and keep them on the back foot, to prevent them from stopping them. And they constantly double down and triple down and quadruple down in order to get their way, and they are outrageous precisely because they know that the speed is of the essence. Okay, so that premise that you stated, I totally disagree with it, because I've seen it so many times before.
I
And
know,
if
and
you
in
look, yeah.
general, I'd agree with you, and that's the
Mhm.
thing is that every inclination leads me to agree with you, and I understand this sounds like a dumb like this time is different,
No, no, I mean, I can understand the impulse to say,
but
oh, it'll take time, or
no, it's not just that; it's that the conditions are different. So, for example, we live in a country with a incredible amount of arms and munition,
yeah.
and at the same time, you also have a lot of progressives who are the fuddiest of gun owners, but nonetheless say any attempt to take firearms must be frustrated by force if necessary. My
Mhm.
inclination leads me that we're leading to a bureaucratic tyranny more than we are leading to an overt communist tyranny, one where you need a permit to have free speech and all that kind of things, and one where you'll be you know how the left is constantly like saying we don't want to shame, we want a shame-free society. My intuition tells me we're going to be leading to a society of almost religious institutions, almost religious shame. And reason being is you have a mass importation of third world migrants and all that who are hella conservative, like socially,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You have a massive welfare state, which these guys are not, these imports and refugees and all that are not really against. So but at the same time, they're not going to tolerate this LGBT, this diversity, this snowflake, this foreignness. So my intuition tells me we're headed more for a theocracy than we are headed for a actual institutional type of like communism and all that. We're heading to maybe a soft, you kind of get what I'm saying. And the thing is, it's not profitable to go to war as a general sense. And yes, we'll have engagements, and yes, Halliburton, and yes, all these industrial military complexes will definitely get their money, but it's not to the same extent as it is, when we think of mechanized war. My feeling is just from all the actions, and the left is not procreating at all. They're having mass abortions, which is why they're importing voters. And if you look at, for example, election results, you have so many people, like so many diverse people of color and groups shifting to the right, more or less, and it's more for cultural reasons. My intuition tells me we're headed to a bureaucratic tyranny or a civic slash religious tyranny than we are more or less as like an actual
Which is
communist.
basically what communism was.
I mean, I don't know, because communism is more or less for the party or not. And this, my
Yeah, well, it's
mother's Russian.
the same thing. Okay, it was
Yeah,
the religion. Okay.
it, it kind of. I mean, like I get the state theism, which is what I think it is, but I don't sense it's going in that kind of direction. It's going like, I'm trying to put my finger on it, but it's more.
Well,
It
no,
is a worship of the
you're
state.
thinking you're confusing late stage Soviet communist regimes,
Hmm.
right? Where it was the heavy state
Yes.
with early stage communism. I would suggest that you read Richard Pipes. Richard Pipes is Pipes, and
Hmm.
his book The Russian Revolution,
Hmm.
and you'll get a better flavor for how it was originally. And it
True.
was a
And
lot more like what you're saying now. That book obviously talks about the Russian Revolution in the period of 1917, but you get a flavor of how it was leading up to 1917, and it was very similar to what's going on now. Okay,
right, and
it is.
I do know from the book Ordinary Men how people would just get along to go along, how they
Yeah,
turned a bunch of officers into, for example, SS cops in Germany. And so
sure.
I get that. My intuition tells me though that we're not like 5 years away from a war or from communism or from tyranny. We're closer than we think, and we're closer than I'm making it seem. But I think, and my intuition largely tells me that, and especially just looking at history, the Victorian era came after, what was it? Basically like, the era of debauchery. I'm spacing on what it is, but my intuition
Mhm.
just tells me we're not headed down that road as fast as we think we are. We're not careening as fast, and technology will largely relieve us, but also be used to tyrannize us in new different ways. And the proliferation of information makes it a lot harder to tyrannize the masses and all that.
I
And
so disagree with you there.
you
I
think so?
so disagree with you. Yeah, and the suppression of the New York Post stories proves it.
Yes, but at the same time, look at BitChute, for example, existing. Look at this
Oh,
low
BitChute is
level.
tiny.
It
It's
is,
tiny.
but the fact that it exists is a
Yeah, it can
testament.
exist, but it's still tiny.
It
Okay,
absolutely
it
is.
doesn't
But
move the needle. It didn't move the needle,
yes, but
and the tech
YouTube didn't move the
companies
needle
totally
in
censored.
2000.
They totally censored the New York Post, and we are being censored now, by the way.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
and we're self-censoring, and that's even the more powerful thing. You feel like there's certain things you
Exactly.
can't say.
So I think that all this these technology companies that have monopolized online communications have de facto created an easy way to silence speech.
For
And
sure.
information is less available than ever before. Speech is information, after all, right? There is less availability of information than ever before. You can find out more data points, perhaps, but not what people are thinking.
Right. Now, and when I'm saying information, I'm referring to, for example, not like opinionated political information, which I think is incredibly valuable, but I'm talking about like almost scientific and data. Well, yeah, data
Yeah,
points in that case,
that
because I
sure.
think that's
Yeah,
I think that's actually more valuable than the politics, because that tends to push towards free markets.
no, because what happens is that you need to know what people are politically, what's driving them politically, so that you can have a functioning democracy. That's the whole point of Trump. Trump tapped into a huge segment of the U.S. population that the tech oligarchies didn't even see, and they don't even acknowledge it exists.
Oh, without doubt.
They don't see it. Okay, they're blind to it. Okay, and so that proves the point that a lot of this technology, it's great. It's great for communication and all the rest of it, but good old-fashioned politicking and knowing what what people's concerns are. This technology is not helping, and on the contrary, it's hurting because it's making people censor themselves. So yeah, and that's why, for instance, all these polling companies got it so completely wrong.
Yeah, and here's the thing, I definitely agree with you, and that's the thing, is that it's like, it's hard for me to walk this position, but just from what I'm feeling in there is that everything you've said is true, but the direction in which we're heading doesn't seem like, I understand.
Well, then we'll have to see. Well,
Yeah.
we think that it's going. You and I think that it's going in different directions. We'll just have to wait and see. We don't have to argue about it now.
No, for sure, for sure.
So anyway, DSAC, it's great talking to you. Thanks so much for joining. I hope you're enjoying it, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty interesting. Pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks. Let me see. Jason Navarro has a question. It's sort of, I won't bring you on, Jason, because it's a tangential question. It's really, he lives in Panama and he's worried how the repercussions will affect Panama. I don't think I wouldn't worry if I were you. Okay, Panama is always going to be a financial center, and also the Panama Canal. I don't think it's really going to affect. I don't think it's really going to be affected, rather, by whatever happens between the U.S. and China. I think actually Panama is a great place to hide out from the apocalypse. Okay, I've been thinking seriously of moving there, not kidding. For various reasons, I think that Panama would be a great place to hang out. But yeah, so I want to get somebody like a final question. Sebastian Mendo has a question that's pretty interesting. I'm not quite sure I understand it. That's why I'm kind of curious to ask him to explain it. Sebastian, are you there?
Hi, Coach. How's it going?
Hi, how's it going?
I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm kind of.
Hello? Hello?
Hi. Sorry.
Did the secret police get you? Did the secret police get you?
Yes. Yeah. Siri. My phone. Yeah, was censoring my speech already. Yeah. Yo, Coach. So I'll just keep it simple. So I work in tech.
Yeah.
And I'm interviewing for a lot of the big companies, a lot of the companies that want to get you and me.
Yeah.
And see, I was a year ago, before I started listening to your content, I was like, man, I want to be a part of Google. I want to be a part of Facebook. But now, like, with all this crap, like, I just feel completely out of it, and I kind of feel like I don't want to do that anymore,
Mm-hmm.
And so, would it be best as a career move to focus more on like gaining experience and then helping a library or helping a BitChute or helping a WikiLeaks or anything like that grow? Or I don't know, what do you think?
Well, it depends on a whole host of factors. I mean, number one, how old are you? How much experience do you have?
23.
Yeah. Number two, like, do you have a family to support or something like that? Because
Yes.
ultimately, if you have kids and a wife, right, then supporting them is your priority. Okay. And anything else, free speech or career development or all that shit, it's secondary. Okay. And because you're responsible for other human beings. I mean, and they're your human beings, your kids, right? And so, yeah, that's the primary consideration. Now, if you don't have any kids and you don't have that much experience, then it would actually be smart to be working at one of these big tech firms, even if you despise their politics and all the bullshit that they spew. But it would be smart because you get a lot of experience. You get so much experience that you could apply in more productive directions. And perhaps, if you're very cautious, You might be able to find other people, like-minded people within these lefty corporations, and potentially team up with them, do something else with them. You know, I mean, there are a lot of possibilities if you're young. And also, if you do have a family, these big corporations, they pay very well. So there's nothing wrong with subordinating your political points of view in order to get the money. Because look, we all whore ourselves out, okay? Everybody is a whore. The only issue is for how much, see? And so it's perfectly respectable, okay? So, you know, don't worry about that. Now, if temperamentally, you know, working for one of these companies gets you so down, then don't work there. I mean, or work there for a very short time to get something out of it very specific, okay? I mean, you know, work at some place for a couple of years so that you can get like Google on your resume, and if that helps you insofar as your career in some other company where you don't hate yourself, that's understandable. But I mean, like, if you go into that kind of situation where you hate the place, but you're going to get something out of it, then go there thinking that it's going to be a fixed period of time and just suck it up. Because we all go through periods in our lives where we have to suck it up, okay? But you have to figure out your priorities as to what's important in your life, okay? I mean, you don't have to answer, but do you have kids?
No.
Okay. And you're a young guy. How old are you?
23.
23. You don't have much experience, right? So spending a couple of years sucking it up at some big company, but getting like a really, you know, a big boost for your CV, it might be the smart thing, okay? But I mean, you got to think of it as, you know, like not forever and ever. You got to think of it as like, okay, I'll be there for like 18 months, 24 months, and then I'm gone. And when you think of it in those terms, it's a lot easier, okay? When you think of it, I mean, think about it. You know, when you're trying to study, right? You're like studying and you're not motivated or anything like that. But if you stop and say, hey, I'm going to study for an hour, exactly 60 minutes. I'm going to give it my best shot for 60 minutes, and then I'm going to quit no matter what. Then you actually do study, and you are effective. You see, when you set a time limit to doing something disagreeable, then it's a lot easier to manage. Okay, so think of it in those terms.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. And I have another question, a little more specific. So
Sure.
I currently have a green card in the U.S. In California, but I'm not too sure about like the whole idea of becoming a citizen. I'm like 2 years away from being a citizen, you know, especially hearing about all this stuff going on and everything.
Don't become a citizen then. If you're not sure, don't become a citizen. Simple as that. You know. And remember, if you become a citizen of the U.S. and you leave the U.S., you still have to pay taxes in the U.S. It's the only country. The United States and Eritrea are the only two countries that have global taxation for its citizens. Okay, so be aware of that.
Oh, okay, interesting. Even if I change my my green card to like Texas or Florida.
Well, I have no idea about how the green card works, but what I'm telling you is that if you are a U.S. citizen, if you become a U.S. citizen, you have to pay taxes regardless of where you're living. Okay, if you're living in a country that has a double taxation treaty with the U.S., most countries do, as a matter of fact, then you pay taxes in the country of residence, right? Say you're living in the U.K. Say you're a U.S. citizen living in the U.K. So you pay taxes in the U.K. and you provide that proof of payment of taxes in the UK with your US income tax return, and that way you don't get charged twice, you don't get double taxed, you see? Because the US IRS service would look at your the payment that you made to the IRS tax the UK tax authority and say, oh, he paid taxes in the UK, so he doesn't have to pay taxes in the US, but you still have to do the filing, which costs like $1,200. I think it costs like $1,200. Well, I don't know. I'm just, you know. So yeah. So I don't know. I mean, if you're not sure about becoming the citizen of some country, then don't become the citizen of that country. You can work perfectly fine with the green card. Yeah. So thanks, Sebastian. Great talking to you. Take it easy, and I hope to see you next time.
One last thing, Coach.
Sure.
Just like kind of like as a overview, man. I love your content, man, and let's hope for the best, man.
Thanks very
Yeah,
much.
your
I'm so
content
glad that you
really
like
got me. Yeah,
I'm so
it
glad that it
really
helps
got me
you
out
out.
of quarantine depression. Uh-huh.
I'm so glad. Thank you. That's really kind
Yeah,
of you to say. I
yeah,
appreciate it, man. Thank
yeah,
you.
definitely. And if I'm ever if I ever see you in the future, man, I really wish I could shake your hand.
Thanks. That's really kind of you to
Uh-huh.
say. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Sebastian. Take it easy.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Coach.
Good luck. Okay, last question, because it's 11:30 here, and if any of you fuckers mock me for this, what I'm about to say, I'll hate you forever. But I get to bed at a reasonable hour. I usually go to bed like around 10:30 or so, and so it's almost 11:30 my time, and I'm like, I'm starting to fall asleep. But anyway, let me see here. Hang on a second. I'm looking through the questions. Okay, I'll read David Netty's question. Okay, he says, I'm at work right now, so I can't talk right now. That's unfortunate. So he asks, in the unlikely scenario that the courts give Trump the election, I agree, it would be an unlikely scenario, but what do you believe will happen? Thanks for the seminar. My pleasure, David. Thank you very much for your kind words. And what would happen if Trump gets a win by way of the courts? Well, look, the left-wing parties would say that he's illegitimate, okay? And they'd run with that, they'd bang that drum for the next 4 years, okay? And which is incredibly unfair because they were the ones who cheated on this election. There is no doubt in my mind that they cheated, okay? It's the numbers just don't add up, okay? There's this great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink. And in this book, he basically says that when you are an expert at something or know something really well, you can just look at it and tell that it's not right. And he discusses how like there was this art appraiser, right, who was brought in to see this very expensive painting, and he just looked at it and he said it's a fake. And the people there were like, no, it's not a fake, it's a real thing. And he's like, no, it's a fake. And then later on, they did some testing, and yes, indeed, it was a fake. The expert, just looked at it and he knew it was a fake. I'm not an expert in many things, okay? But I can look at numbers and realize that they're not real. Like those numbers I have put up there, okay? For the election vote totals, no way that Joe Biden get more votes than Barack Obama in 08. No way. It doesn't make any sense at all. Just looking at it, I know that that's wrong, okay? And therefore, I know that there was a voter fraud, okay? And the fact is that Project Veritas has uncovered a whole bunch of voter frauds, and people are talking about how all of a sudden 20,000 ballots appear and they're all for Joe Biden, which doesn't make any sense at all. Or one was like, it was like 20,000 for Biden and 3,000 for Trump. Again, that doesn't make any sense. The numbers are too skewed, see? And so I know this vote is crooked. The courts, they're not going to give it to Trump. God knows what's going to happen at this point, and so we'll just have to wait it out and wait and see. But a final note before I sign off. See, you think that things are bad now, okay? But you got to keep in mind that in a democracy, there's always cheating going on. It's been going on since forever, okay? You look back at history and not just the high school textbook that you read, but you really dive into history of the past, and you'll discover that, people did all sorts of nasty shit in the past, okay? And they cheated and lied to get their way, to get their hands on power. I'm not particularly concerned if Biden cheated and gets the presidency by way of cheating. I mean, it bothers me quite a bit, but I wouldn't think it's that big of a deal insofar as the United States. What really freaks me out is the possibility of Kamala Harris becoming president. She scares the shit out of me, okay? She is somebody that I think is a real potential dictator. She has what it takes to be a dictator, okay? And so I think I'm going to be doing like a deeper dive on her at some point in the near future, okay? Assuming that Biden wins. If Trump somehow pulls out a victory, thank God, okay? Thank God, but in 2024, we're gonna have the same fucking problem, okay? This shit is not going away. These fucking crazy people are not going away. And it's not that they're Democrats. What bothers me is that they're basically communists. That's what bothers me, okay? And I know enough history to know that these fuckers, they never give up, okay? And yeah. Philip L says, did you see Kamala Harris ad on equity? No, I haven't seen it, but I know it. Basically, she wants everybody to have the same end state. It's not that she wants everybody to have the same opportunities. She wants everybody to end up at the same place. That's fucking communism, okay? She's a fucking commie. And the whole woke culture, that whole shit, AOC, all these fucking people, they are communists, okay? That's why I'm freaking out about this. Yeah. If it was just any other election, I mean, like Bush, Gore, for instance, who gives a fuck who wins, right? It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right? Ditto with Obama in 08 and in 12, right? But this shit's different, okay? Because the communist cancer has grown in the United States from academia, okay? And these fuckers, man, they are nasty pieces of work. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this special webinar. I'll be having the regular webinar on Sunday. So really looking forward to that. And the webinar on Sunday, I have a couple of topics and I'll probably float them to you like in the next couple of days. If you're not a member of the webinar tier, please join the webinar tier. I think you'll enjoy it. So far, we're up to webinar number 31. This coming Sunday is going to be webinar number 32. I'm not counting this one. This one like a one-off special kind of thing. And yeah, we have lots of conversations and sort of like this. It's basically I work my way through an outline and then take questions and comments and shoot the shit. So yeah, please join me on Sunday. I really look forward to it. And thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.